You're playing a game of marbles against your friend. You only have 3 marbles left, but you decide to risk it and wager all 3 on odd. To your dismay, your friend opens their hand and shows that they were holding 2 marbles. You just lost the game to complete randomness. Hopefully, not too much was riding on that game. But what if that happened when there were millions of dollars on the line? Does variance have its place in competitive games? You might have seen this Vox video talking about why underdogs do better in hockey than basketball. They explained that because hockey allows for more variance, the underdog team has a bigger chance of winning, leading to more upsets. I remember discussing this video with a friend who was a big NBA fan, and he seemed very proud of the fact that his sport had the least variance, and claimed that luck had no place in competition, where the goal is to find out who is the best. But I disagree. I think variance and luck absolutely have their place in competition. The key lies in its implementation. We will look at 3 levels of variance in games and show how they are implemented to maintain competitive integrity and even enhance it in some cases. Before we dive into level 1, I want to make clear that this video discusses game variance, not player variance. Player variance is another completely different beast, and I'm planning on making a video on player variance in the future. If you would like to see it, please leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel to be notified when that drops. Back to the video. Most of you probably will guess what game I have at this level. It has to be chess. After all, it is the ultimate symbol of 1v1 skill-based competition, and there are no other games like it. Or are there? This is Footsies, a game most of you fighting game players might have heard of. It is the most fundamental, bare-bones fighting games which entirely relies on your spacing skills. It is notorious in the fighting game community, or FGC, because fighting game players highly value the feeling of knowing with absolute certainty that the winning player was the one who played better. It is a community that has a lot of passion for the games that they play, and when they lose, it almost looks as if they were defeated physically outside of the game. Implementing variance in these games is notoriously difficult, since you stray away from what made these games have this passionate of an audience in the first place. Chess is a similar story. The esteem around chess, describing it as the pinnacle of mind sports, developed this prestige for very strong chess players. But what would be of this prestige if there were even the slightest amount of randomness? The audience would suddenly start discussing whether or not the current world champion is the legitimate winner or if he just got lucky. And chess's reputation as the highest level of skill-based competition will dwindle. The best way to implement variance in these games is to minimize it as much as possible. I also want to add that another reason these games do not allow for any significant RNG is because seemingly marginal advantages can often snowball into overwhelming and very significant leads. In chess, this is very apparent, where at the top, an advantage of +1, which is basically nothing in the eyes of us regular Joes, more often than not spells GG in the next few moves. It sure sounds like all games should go in this direction, and eliminate all forms of RNG to match the passion of chess and fighting games audiences. But as we all know, that is not the case. This level houses most of the popular esports out there. Tactical shooters have slightly randomized recoil control, spray patterns, and movement inaccuracy. MOBAs have randomized crit chance, there are random procs and map changes. Even StarCraft 2 has randomized spawn locations for each map. And the attack cooldowns apparently. I'm not too well versed in StarCraft, do correct me if this information is wrong. Does this variance mean that the scene is less competitive and players are less passionate than fighting game or chess players? Not even close.
They have been doubted! They have been discounted! They have been dismissed! But
These games are just as competitive, and the players are equally passionate as those level 1. So how do they allow randomness in their games and quote-unquote ruin the competitive integrity? RNG is able to be part of the game because it is implemented in a way which still allows the better player to shine. Games are almost never decided by which Dragon Soul spawns, and Valorant and CS players are well aware of the RNG-induced inaccuracies in the game, and instead of letting it decide their fate, they play accordingly. However, even with this design choice, there will be times where the supposedly non-consequential variance is indeed very consequential. The implementation must only allow these moments to happen very rarely. Of course, when the implementation allows for weaker players to win due to RNG too often, the community complains, and changes are hopefully made. You may ask though, if these changes introduce the possibility of weaker players winning, why are they even there in the first place? I believe it's a combination of higher game variety and increased player adaptation. As players and spectators, we prioritize entertainment over everything else. Adding these non-consequential variances tend to bring more unpredictable games and general enjoyment to the player base, and very rarely frustration from losing to weaker players. In a way, because these RNG moments usually allow for players to adapt to them, they provide another opportunity for the better player to demonstrate their skills by adjusting to the situation. Why do you think these elements are added? Do leave a comment telling me what you think of non-consequential variances in game. But what happens when variance fundamentally decides the outcome of the game? Yeah, you all know what's coming. Let's talk about poker. Games with consequential variances are games where even when played perfectly, it is still very possible, sometimes even likely, to just lose to chance.
All in.
Call. Aces.
7 deuce off.
Bro, what the fuck?
But guess what? These games are still very competitive, with good players having ego, passion, and emotions, just like the others. How do they implement variance in a way that doesn't frustrate players who lose to weaker opponents? Well, it's simple. They don't. Top players like Phil Hellmuth are famous for their blow-ups after bad runs, and controlling your emotions is one of the key aspects of the game. Failing to do so leads to tilt streaks where you make decisions you would otherwise never make, like going all in with 7 deuce off, praying to get lucky. Dealing with aggravating losses is literally a skill to master in the game. Yet, top players remain at the top, and winning poker players make a living out of a game that some call borderline gambling. How on earth can this kind of variance be implemented? It's simple. Allow for a large enough sample size to take variance out of the equation through the law of large numbers. Usually, you play multiple hands per buy-in, allowing for many chances to showcase your quote-unquote perfect play. And with enough hands played, even while losing some hands to weaker players, you will likely still come up on top. The game is designed for hands to be played quickly, with some players even calling floor managers to complain when someone is taking too long. Some tournaments even allow for a second buy-in as a second life, and obviously, in cash games you get to buy in as long as you have money. While it's true that most poker players are on the verge of insanity, the game is one of the most enjoyable to watch. When variance is consequential, it makes that river card infinitely more suspenseful, and you are literally on the edge of your seat waiting for it. In our world where we often root for hero underdog stories, poker seems to create one every few weeks thanks to the nature of the game. It is to the point where I think I have not yet seen a highlight of Phil Hellmuth winning a hand.
Why is everyone so happy except Phil?
Variance is not to be celebrated or frowned upon. It is an aspect of the game which, if implemented correctly, can enhance the experience of both players and spectators of the game. This video was a ton of fun to make. I really hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I did making it. If you did, Remember to drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this.